She's about to click it live.
All right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our StreamYard Family Discipleship. We are super glad to be here with Mark and Robin McKinney. So as any of you guys are logging on here, if you would comment over on the side of your screen, just say, hi, everybody, because we want to know who's watching, and we want to be able to take your questions. We want to be able to hear you as you're processing what Mark and Robin are saying tonight. And we also have some giveaways. So we would really like to give away some cool books that I have sitting beside me right here. So here we go. I've got these things that I would like to give away, but that's going to require some talking from our audience. Yeah. So thank you for everybody for making time tonight. Thank you, Mark and Robin, for making time tonight. We know it's probably been a long week. It has been at our house too, but we're almost at the end of it, and we've got just a few minutes here. Hey, Christina. Welcome, Christina Jones. Glad you guys are here. We got Will and Elizabeth Wilshues in. Yay! And in the background is Julia Ekpo, who is administrating this for us, our administrative genius. So welcome, y'all. Oh, welcome, Sarah Trapp. She says book, sign me up. I know.
I'm there.
I know. So, yay, we're so glad you guys are here. Yes, so I'll give you a little preview here as we have a few people signing up of the books that we're going to be giving away. So we have this one is one of my personal favorites. This book was really formative for me as a young parent. This is called Organized Simplicity. It's by a lady named Tish Oxenreider, who is a believer and has lived overseas as a missionary too. It's not a distinctly Christian book, although she describes her faith really openly in the book. The purpose of this book, she describes living simply as living holistically with your life's purpose. And if you've been through our family discipleship class, the questions that I use for families to write their family mission statement, they came from this book. So this is the book that we use to write our family mission statement, and then start to figure out, oh, wait, like we could kind of line up our schedule and our spending and the way our house works and the way our family works according to the mission that God's given us. And this book really helped us to do that. And then I also have, this is a small one, but a really goodie. This is The Tech Wise Family by Andy Crouch. It is a super simple and great engaging book, but it also is a great book about family culture and how to handle technology, how to evaluate and use it wisely. It's really good. I know Christina knows this one because Graydon is a huge fan. And then last, but certainly not least, this is Long Story Short. This is a family devotional book that we really like. It has these little 10-minute devotions that are great for mixed age group families, because we know that most families have different ages of kids. They're not all on the same level or in the same place, but it takes you through the whole Bible. And every week you examine how the stories point to Jesus. And it's just really easy to use. Oh, the Drurys are here. Yay, Drurys. All right. So I am going to give away one of these books right now. Okay. Right now, for the first person who can tell me what you had for family dinner tonight. Okay. First person who tells us what they had for family dinner tonight. Hi, Lenny. Oh, and the Reedies are here too. Welcome, Angela and Brandon. So I'm doing a giveaway, y'all. This is a giveaway of this book right here for the first person who reports what they had for family dinner tonight. Oh, Lisa Mears, you are our winner. Lisa, oh, no, wait, somebody may beat you. I'm sorry. What does that mean y'all ate Heim barbecue for dinner tonight?
Oh.
Is that what I'm saying? Will and Elizabeth, did y'all have Heim barbecue for dinner? Because y'all's is the first response that I see that could possibly have been a dinner. Yep, okay. Will and Elizabeth, you are our winners of organized simplicity. You are our winners. And Heim barbecue, good choice. That's delicious.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm putting this one to the side. I will drop it off at your house sometime in the next week, or bring it to the office and give it to Will. Okay, guys, I'm going to introduce our amazing speakers for the night. This is Mark and Robin McKinney. They have been church planners. They are educators. They are educators of educators, and they are amazing parents and grandparents. We love their kids. We love the fruit that we've seen come out of their family, that they are a family who loves Jesus. Their children love Jesus, and they love to be together. There is joy that radiates from their family. So, am I getting feedback, y'all? Let me plug in I can probably eliminate that so you guys don't hear something funky coming from me. All right, Mark and Robin, can you tell us a little bit more about yourselves? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, well, we've been married 37 years, have 3 grown daughters, and like Aaron, like you said, they all love Jesus and just incredibly blessed. They're all married. All 3 son-in-laws and all 3 daughters went to Baylor, so we're all Baylor Bears, and we just have 5 grandkids, one on the way that's actually due Christmas Day.
Oh, how fun.
And number 6, and we're super excited about that. And it just kind of a little trivia thing. I met Robin the day before her 18th birthday, and she said, "My name's Robin, and I really do believe God said this is your wife." And so I was done. It took her a couple of years to figure it out, but I was right. I was there. I'd have gotten married that week.
Slow.
Yeah. So I'm a little more sensitive to the Spirit than she is. So I don't know. So anyway, but yeah, so we've been married 37 years and had a lot of good times parenting, a lot of rough times and challenges. And but anyway, but I wouldn't trade any of it. It's just been a blessing. So
that's awesome. Well, we're really glad to hear from you. Okay. Are you guys hearing weird monstery sounds coming from me? Okay, good. Because in my ears, I sound like a troll or something. So I'm really glad that is not
you're sounding fine. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So as you guys probably have read the description of what our heart was for this event, but one of the biggest things that Julia and I have had on our hearts recently is that we feel like we managed to direct a lot of parenting training and encouragement and events towards moms. Part of that is just because moms tend to be a little more available, but we don't always get the opportunity to really encourage dads. And one of the things that we love about Mark is his dadding, his fathering. And so, Mark, I know that one of your main focuses in parenting was to see God's heart for parenting us. And I'd love for you to talk about how you see God fathering us and how you sought to father your children in the same way. Can you tell us about that?
Good question. Well, I would say, first of all, I think first and foremost, the way God fathers us is he loves us extravagantly. I mean, he gave his own son. I mean, so you can't give more than he gives as a father. And I think it's so true that most of us view God the way we view our earthly fathers. And I would say I was blessed with a tremendous father. I could stay here for an hour talking about my dad, and he loved Jesus and was amazing. He was abused growing up. There's no reason he should be the father he was. And I always knew, I never questioned, anytime someone just said, God really loves you, Mark, I never questioned it because I knew my dad loved me. And that was one thing I always wanted. First and foremost, I wanted my girls to know I loved them. And a lot of times when they were little, they'd be in my lap and I'd be tickling them and I'd say, you know, I love you, don't you? And they'd go, yeah. And I said, okay, that means I'm doing my job right. And because I never wanted them to question my love for them. And but I think too, one of the things that God does in fathering us is he leads us, he guides us, you know, kind of, you know, he directs us through his word, through prayer. But at the same time, I think life is dynamic. You know, I don't think, you know, scripture says that Jesus came to give us life, you know, not necessarily a set of rules to follow. Right. And so I really tried my best to look for those teachable moments in life, you know, as they occurred, because I really do feel like that's how Jesus even discipled the 12 is, you know, when he said, consider the lilies of the field. I think there were lilies in the field right over there that he was pointing at, you know, and so I always tried to find life circumstance that would happen. And we'd talk at the dinner table. Hey, what happened at school today? Well, I ran into this issue and this kid drove me crazy. So what do you do about it? Let's talk. What do you think Jesus would say to that? And so I always try to direct it back to teach them or, you know, disciple them and how to hear God's voice for themselves, you know, so it just wasn't, you know, that God wasn't mom and dad's God, but he was their God. So.
That's good. So I hear there's a story about Shannon and her learning to hear God's voice for herself in a situation where she was displeased to have to do so.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a story there?
Yeah, she was 13, and this hairy-legged, snotty-nosed boy down the street wanted to take her to a movie, and he was going to go with his mom, so there was going to be a chaperone. So, but it was interesting because it was a PG-13 movie, kind of a romantic comedy, and so I'm like, I don't know, and so, but she was 13, and I was going, God, what should I do? And you know, we were pastors at the time, and I was always concerned about the whole PK syndrome. If you just tell your kids no all the time, they're going to grow up and well. And so we really tried to keep from saying no unless we got a firm no from God that no, we're not doing this. And so it was so funny because Shannon's asking if she could go, and I said, well, I tell you what, why don't you pray about it? And if God tells you it's okay to go, then it's okay with me. And she just started crying. She's like, don't make me do that. And she just wanted me to tell her, right? So she went off and she prayed, and she came back a little bit later and she goes, I prayed about it and God said it's okay to go. And I said, well, you have a good time, sweetie. And so she went to the movie. She came back, she walked in the door, and I said, how was the movie? And she just started crying. I shouldn't have gone, Dad. I'm sorry. And it was funny. I mean, there wasn't any permanent damage or anything, but it was such a learning moment for her, you know, that, hey, I can't hear God for myself. And I think sometimes we learn how to hear God by missing it, you know, or sometimes we have our own agenda and we think we're going to say it's God because we want to do it real bad. And so I think the way you decipher, even with our children, between what's me and what's God's voice is stepping out in it. And she stepped out and didn't work, but she learned from it. And she'll still say to this day, she remembers that encounter and just that, hey, I need to hear God too. So yeah, that was a pretty cool story. Yeah. So
I love it. That is a good story. It's a really good story. All right. So Robin, you have parented alongside Mark here for a minute, for a while. And what was it like parenting alongside him, and what do you see? What are the benefits that you've seen of the way that Mark has intentionally fathered your girls?
Well,
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that Mark has done a great job, or has done and still does, of the fruit of the Spirit being evident in his life. And also, like you've talked about, that father heart of God. I did not grow up with a dad that was, you know, modeling the father heart of God. So even for myself, there have been times that I could see how God might act. I mean, Mark's not God, but just that heart after God. Like there was one instance for me where my brother had made some pretty bad choices, and I was mad because he had been around my girls, and so I was upset that he had influenced my girls. But my brother came to us and asked for forgiveness. And so we extended forgiveness, but I was still mad. And Mark said, and I was just going off, and Mark goes, but we forgave him. And I was like, yeah, and he goes, but we forgave him. And it was a teachable moment for me. And exactly what Mark's talking about, just those in the moment, in the realization. And to me, those are the lessons that really stick, because it has merit, it has meaning, it has value, it's valid for that moment, for that moment in our lives. But for the girls, just always, his heart is always after Jesus, and just what he's saying is he's always been very naturally supernatural. You know, he's thinking about Jesus, but he's still walking, and you know, his feet aren't too far off the ground, his head's not too high in the clouds, kind of deal. You know, he's very practical. But again, I think just that exemplifying how Jesus walked on the earth. You know, he was always trying to do what he saw the Father doing, trying to say what he heard the Father saying. And I feel like Marcus tried to live that out as well. And we've benefited from it.
It's sweet. And I know it took slowing down and being intentional in so many circumstances. I mean, in parenting, it's so easy to just move fast and react instead of respond. Mm-hmm. And you can feel like you have a circus swirling around you, but to stop and be like, okay, Jesus, what are you doing in this? What are you trying to teach us? What are you trying to help with? I had one of those moments that arose in our home this afternoon where I had been praying for one of my children to just have a touch point with Jesus. And that child came home and starts telling me a story. And all of a sudden that little tinge of Holy Spirit was like, oh, I think this is something that the Lord's trying to teach. You know, this is one of those moments. Mm-hmm. And it's such a good, like, yes, thank you, Lord, when you cue into one of those moments.
Absolutely.
Instead of, you know, just pushing through with whatever needed to be done. That's good. All right, guys. So I'm going to ask you, this question is intended for both of you. One of the reasons that we invited y'all to come speak is we love the way you delight in your children and your family. You delight in your marriage. You delight in your grandchildren. And your kids really love to be with you, which speaks volumes to the way that they grew up and the family culture that you set. So we would love for y'all to talk about just how do you establish a family culture of delighting in and enjoying your children?
I'll go first.
Wow, that's a good question, Erin. It's so funny because enjoying my kids just came so natural to me. I don't know if it was an intentional thing. I decided I'm going to like my kids now. I mean, you know, but I've always loved children even before we had kids. And, but I'm very, you know, between the two of us, I'm probably the touchy-feely one. We watch a chick flick, I start crying before she does. I mean, it's like, but I was always just with the kids, just Tickle Monster was famous in our house, you know, and now my grandkids, I chase them around the house doing the same thing. But I just think it's important because kids pick up if you're not enjoying being with them. You know, it's one of my mentors one time, you know, we've all heard 1,000 times, especially in church, that God loves us. And one of my mentors was speaking to me one time and he said, Mark, you got to understand something. God likes you. And I was like, what? I said, no, he doesn't. He loves me because he has to, because I'm a mess, right? But it was hard for me to believe that he liked me. Like he just wanted to be with me. I kind of grew up thinking I always had to try harder to be good enough for God's acceptance. And when he just said God liked me, that just went by all my defenses. And I just really feel like it's the same way with our kids, that the kids can pick up quickly if you're sincerely enjoying being with them and when you're not. And there was a time when I think it was close to, we were being trained to do our first church plant. And I remember doing the taxes that year. We made $9,900 in 12 months. I mean, we were struggling, and God just always miraculously provided somehow. I don't know how, but one time I was cleaning carpets, and Robin, and it was hot in the summer, and Robin sat me down one time and just said, "Mark," she said, "you're home, but you're not home." Because I was just so exhausted, and I'd walk in the door and just want to just collapse. Everybody leave me alone. And I realized that was affecting the kids. And so actually what I did, the last carpet job I did that day, I would always get in my truck, I'd roll my window down, and I would take an imaginary time card off the dash, and I would stick it out the window, and I would clock out as carpet cleaner, and I would grab another imaginary time card and clock in as dad. And so the whole drive home, I was thinking to myself, when I get home, I'm daddy. And I'd walk in the door, and that was my favorite part of being a dad, was walking in the door and hearing my girls go, "Daddy!" And they'd run and jump on me, and I'd tackle them, and we'd wrestle and play and laugh for probably 10 or 15 minutes before I did anything else. But I always just wanted to, I don't know, just loving my kids and enjoying them. I mean, to this day, my girls will say Robin's their best friend, and they're each other's best friends. I mean, and it's just been a blessing. But it was intentional in that we made time for it, though, because I think some of those things that take away from that enjoyment, I think fatigue, like, I was working hard, so I didn't feel like it every day. But stress, just all the pandemic, I mean, all those things can contribute to that. But what do you think?
Well, I was just going to say that I think also one of the things I began to realize as a mother was that when your kids are little, they are a part of your life. They come with you to your thing, and they're hanging out with you for your thing. And then as they get older, you become an observer of their lives. And I think it's important as a parent to become their biggest cheerleader, to become their biggest fan. And again, I think that goes with the delighting in them. It's not just delightful for them to be a part of what I'm doing, but it's delightful for me to be a part of what they're doing, to be on the sideline and to cheer them on, and to see them doing great things, doing greater things than I ever hoped and dreamed for myself or for them. And it's that's been awesome as a mother to me, to be able to see my kids go and do great and amazing things. Yeah, just very proud of them, and honored to be their mother, and just that when they call me, when they say you're one of my best friends, they are definitely one of my best friends, but I'm very touched to be considered one of their best friends.
I love that, Robin. And this may be a selfishly motivated question, because when we were talking before we went live the other night, you were talking about having just more of a natural task orientation. And I can relate to that, particularly in the home. I think a lot of moms can relate to, like, we look around and we see all the things that need to get done. And we know that our family needs to run on a schedule, and that dinner needs to be on the table at a certain time, and that load of laundry needs to get folded so that it doesn't become 5 loads of laundry on the couch, and that floor needs to get clean because it's not getting any better tomorrow. We see what needs to be done, and it can be easy to be driven by that more than we're driven by relationship.
Right.
And yet you've taken the time to cultivate your daughters becoming your best friends. And that obviously was intentional. So can you talk to us just a little bit about overcoming some of those obstacles of task orientation in order to be intentional about relationship?
Yeah, some of the things when I began to realize that about myself, everyone in our immediate family, the girls and Mark, are all they're play first. And I was the work first, play later. And I was raised that way, and it is deep within my soul. You work first and then you play. You cleaned up the dishes and then you go watch a movie. And they're like, "Mom, the dishes will be fine. Come on." And I was just like, I can't, guys. But one of the things I began to learn about myself And it was conversations with Mark too. I said, I can come and I can watch the movie and I can be like, not really, I won't be in the moment. I'll be thinking about the task. And so in those situations, he would be like, okay, girls, let's hit it. Let's clean up the kitchen and then we'll all watch the movie. So that was, communication. We needed to talk about that, but also learning about myself. It helped me to get out of the house. Let's go for a walk or let's go to the park. So I'm not looking at all the tasks around me. I'm in the moment. I can enjoy the girls. I can enjoy being with them. And I can really listen to the conversation. I can listen to what they're saying because I'm not thinking about the dishwasher that needs to be unloaded. And then when I was working, I would call when I was on my way home. And I was about 20 minutes out and be like, okay, guys, I'm on my way home. Mark laughs and says he would go DEFCON 1, guys, which meant, let's all pick up. Let's all go. Because when I would get home, if things were disarray, then I'd get really frustrated. So we started doing that. And then I could come home and we could get dinner ready and just enjoy. And I will say, family meals are so important. And we made it a priority early in their little lives, pulling up the high chair to the table. We had a family meal and we sat together as a family and we ate together. TV was not on. We didn't do that. We sat and we had meals together. And so many of our girls would have their friends over in high school and even in college. And we'd have a family meal and they just be like, wow, do y'all do this often? We're like, pretty often. I mean, of course, when they get in high school and they're super busy, we try to get at least 2 to 3 times a week, that we had a family meal together. But yeah, and I cannot say enough about a family meal, just making it a habit, whether it's Sunday after church, that's a pretty standard time. We've gone to church together. Let's go and let's have a meal together. But it's just such a great way to listen to your kids and what's going on in their lives and ask those questions. Mark started doing, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Mark started doing this really cool thing. He started doing kind of what ifs when the girls were like kind of that tween, coming about 8, 9, 10. What if, and started asking questions. What if you have a friend that suddenly ignores you at school? And just starts doing some of those conversations so they can go, and we can talk about, what would Jesus want us to do? And I remember one of them when they were like in junior high. What if you're going to go on a date with a boy and he honks the horn? What will you do? They're like, we'll go out. No, we're not going to go out if the honk the horn.
You may not go out at all.
So it was really good. And again, those were things that happened at our family table. And we still have we linger. And that's one of the great things that we have with our setup now. Our dining room is away from the kitchen. So when we have big family meals, I don't see the kitchen. So we have our meal and I'm able to linger. I don't feel like I need to gather things up and go clean. So we can just linger at the table. Yeah.
One of the cool things I did, it just reminded me when Robin was talking about that, when the girls were, I think when they were like kindergarten, 1st grade, I started taking them on daddy dates. And the reason I started so young was because I knew if I waited till they were 13 or 14, then the girls would be like, oh, Dad, please, but when they're 5, Dad knows everything. Well, I figured if I could teach them when they think I'm the bomb, right? And then hopefully get those seeds planted when they were teenagers, it would stick. And so I would dress up and they would dress up. We'd go to Olive Garden because they loved the breadsticks. So that was our restaurant. And when we would go driving to the restaurant, I would talk to them about, here's how you have a conversation with a boy. You're going to be nervous. So here's some ways to start conversations, just very practical things. And I said, so when you get to the restaurant, don't grab the handle. You wait for the boy to come around and open the door for you. And he was always the boy. So it was, just to set that straight. So, and then one of my daughters, they'd always say, well, what if he just walks in the restaurant? And I said, well, then you call me and I'll come pick you up. And you won't go out with him again. And so you guys know Trevor and Shannon. So Trevor and Shannon, they were engaged. They'd been dating about 2 years. And he came and picked her up for a date and told me where they were going, what time they'd be home. And they went outside And I was peeking through the blinds, and Robin's like, "Get away from the window! What are you doing? I want to see if he's doing it right." And Shannon walked straight up to the car, put her hands behind her back, and Trevor comes over, opens the door for her. And they've been dating for 2 years, and he still opens the door for her. And they've been married 11 years now. And so I just really, part of that fathering the girls in that is I wanted them to see how special they were.
Mm-hmm.
They were too special to let anyone, especially a young man that says he cares about them, to treat them any differently than that. So, yeah.
I love that. I love, I was thinking about what y'all talking about family dinners. And I had a revelation probably a year ago or so. And I think I was having a moment of, oh no, my children are growing up too fast. What do I do? I have 2 teenagers in my house. My authority is diminishing. Hopefully my influence is growing, but they're growing up so fast and they're having to face so many things and deal with all of these challenges. And I just really felt like the Lord gave me this vision of like, yeah, but they're still at your dinner table. Like they're encountering all of these challenges. They're encountering all of these difficult relationships and decisions and big issues and big stuff happening in the world and learning how to process it. But they leave your door every day. They go into this laboratory called the world. And then they come back to your dinner table to process everything that's happened. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, that is actually really cool. Yeah. They have this refuge, this place of being rooted, this place of coming home every night to process and be safe. And then that gives them the roots to go out into this laboratory called the world and learn all these lessons while they still have this home to come to. And I felt like the Lord just showed me like what a treasure of a time this is actually. That they are in that season, that laboratory season, but still rooted here at home. So,
and even feel like if they've gone and maybe they failed, maybe they feel like they got beat up that day, and they have a place to come home and be loved and reminded how special and treasured they are. And I think that there's a security that comes in the familiarity of, I know mom and dad are there. We're going to have a meal. Whether they share what's on their heart or not, they know they have a place that they could share if they wanted to share. Yeah. I think it's a lost treasure in a lot of ways. I think it's because people have gotten so busy and there's so much technology,
And Aaron, I want to add on to that. This is something I just learned the last few years at my job, training teachers. But the owner of our company is a psychotherapist, and he's been doing a lot of brain research the last few years. And one of the things that he discovered in brain research is the importance of rituals, like a family dinner every day. And he said that rituals actually release oxytocin in the brain, which is it's a reward chemical. And it's kind of tied with dopamine, like when you're laughing, dopamine's released. Well, when you start participating in rituals, it releases oxytocin in your brain. And oxytocin, it's a reward chemical. It does a couple of things. Number one is it teams with dopamine to mitigate the amygdala, the fight or flight part of the brain. And so when oxytocin is released in the brain, it helps control that part of the brain, so you don't feel that trauma that I got to get out of here. But the other thing that the rituals do is oxytocin is like a bonding agent. In other words, when you do rituals together, that there's a bonding that takes place during that time. And research shows that the same amount of oxytocin is released in the brains of everyone that participates in that ritual. Just how cool is that? And that's what makes you feel drawn together. Now, I don't want to make anybody sick, but I could take our computer around the room, and just to my right here, we have our Christmas tree that's up because we're having Christmas at Thanksgiving this year. That's why you see the decorations behind us. Girls live out of town and they're coming in for Thanksgiving. So, but I will say this, they're not decorated because we do not decorate the tree without our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So they made it quite clear, you don't decorate the tree till we get there, because that's one of their favorite memories as a child. And so it's just a bare tree for 3 more weeks till they show up, and then we'll do that. But yeah, so rituals are really important. Rituals, and praying together, family devotions. Kay, you got time for a story before Robin says it's too much? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Keep him on track, Aaron.
And then as soon as you tell your story, I have a giveaway.
Okay, good. Well, there's a song called "The Fiddler" that I sang to the girls every night. It's a Christian song. Talks about Jesus being the fiddler, walking through the city, playing the fiddle, and people following him. And the last verse says, "Now I seem to understand how you can even play your song with nail scars in your hand." And just talks about how he laid his life down for us. And then it transitions at the end of the song into Jesus Loves Me. And so when my second daughter, Rama, was getting married, I'm doing the wedding. And so we're at the wedding rehearsal, and I asked the piano player, I said, so is Rama going to come down to the traditional, bridal march? And he goes, no, she had a different song. And I went, oh no, because I knew Rama is like, there's no telling what she's going to have. And so he said, it's a surprise, but you'll hear it in a minute. And I said, okay, well, let's go ahead, get at the piano. I had the bridesmaids set up, and the piano player started playing, and I heard, fiddler, you play your song all through the city. So I got to walk my daughter down the aisle to the song I sang to her every night. And we were both just bawling. It was one of the most incredible moments of my life, just because that meant so much to her. She wanted to walk down the aisle together. And so anyway, whatever that's worth, rituals mean something.
That's beautiful. I love it. All right. So I'm going to do a giveaway right now. And I'm going to give away this book, Long Story Short. And I'm giving this one away right now because it is a great thing to do at your family breakfast or dinner table. And an easy, well, I say it's easy. If it was super, super easy to have family devotional every day, my family would be doing it every day. And we have to be overcome the challenges. So I'm not ever going to tell you that having a family devotional every day is super easy. It's something you have to work at. But it is, this is a tool that makes it really doable. So I'm going to give this book, Long Story Short, away to the first person who tells us about a family ritual that your family has. Okay. So if you'll type it into the comments, a family ritual that your family has. And Julia is going to be watching here, and then she will let us know who has won. Okay, so excited to hear about that. Now, while you guys are typing your family rituals, I am going to ask another question here. It is obvious, Mark and Robin, that you guys really enjoy each other. And I know you've worked on that, and it's been a labor of love over 37 years. But could you guys just talk a little bit about keeping your marriage healthy in order to parent well, especially in difficult parenting seasons? Like, what did it look like to keep yourselves and your marriage healthy in order to parent well?
I'll start.
Okay.
And we've gone through some really hard times, and finances have often played a really significant role, or I should say the lack of finances in some of the struggles that we've had. And so, date nights and Mother's Day out, things like that were not part of our lives. Our girls didn't go to Mother's Day out or anything like that because that just wasn't in our budget. Date nights had to be very creative because we just didn't have the money. Thank God for dollar theaters. We went to the dollar movies a lot. My mom passed away when I was really young, and Mark's mom had a lot of health issues, so we didn't have that grandma backup to help us watch kids and stuff. So again, being creative with friends and say, if I watch your kids this weekend, would you watch my kids next weekend so we can have date nights? Again, just being intentional to be with just Mark. And we were really good to, of course, we didn't have cell phones back then, but to go to bed together. And I know that sounds silly, but he's a night owl and I'm an early bird. And so we would realize that we could get on this trajectory of we never went to bed together, and I would be asleep before he came to bed. And so we just had to be intentional of let's go to bed together and we can talk and just talk about our day after the girls are asleep. We can just talk about our day. That may look different for other people as far as maybe sitting in the living room and turning off the TV and having a conversation. But that meant a lot to me, again, because I'm the early bird and I wanted to go to sleep, that he would, he'd cut off the TV and say, y'all, let's go to bed and let's talk and let's, see how each other's day went and stuff. And so communication is really important to me, and I feel very connected when there's good open communication. And so he's always been really considerate to make sure we have time to talk. Since the girls have left the nest, our Saturday mornings are like our favorite time now. So we kind of do whatever it is we're going to do early in the morning, and then have our quiet times, and then we just kind of sit and just talk about how the week's been and how our quiet time's been with Jesus. And we just sometimes realize, an hour and a half has passed by, and we've just really enjoyed having coffee and talking. And so, yeah.
Another thing too, I always thought it was really important to make sure my kids knew the world did not revolve around them, where we were definitely involved in their lives, sometimes probably too much, but we never allowed our kids' lives to run our lives. And I always made it quite clear that your mama comes first, because you guys are going to grow up and leave me and run off with some boy, and I'm going to be with her. So she's always going to be number one. And I had no problem at all telling them that we were always together on decisions. We made it quite clear that they're not going to play one against the other. If I was short and kind of maybe a little too curt with one of the girls over an issue, Robin would be there and she'd, okay. And then we'd go to bed and she'd go, let's talk about how you talked to the girls a little bit ago. I mean, we would have that talk, but not in front of the kids. We always made sure that we presented a united front, that we love each other. And even if we disagreed with what each other had done, we were going to have each other's back toward the kids. So that was another thing that really solidified, I think, that relationship, that comes first. So.
And they learned real quick, if they tried to play us against each other, the answer was going to be no.
Yeah.
My husband is always telling my children that I came first. Like he's all the time, like, I love you, but your mama came first. She was the first one, and without this, you wouldn't exist. So this is important. You need a healthy mama and daddy. You need a healthy, or he'll kiss me in front of them, and one of them's going, do you have to do that in here? He'll go, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah. Because it's important to you that your mama and daddy love each other.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we had a great moment last Christmas, behind us. We hadn't put our stockings up yet, but we had 13 stockings hung across the mantle. And I just said, Robin, look at this. And we she was looking at the fireplace, and I said, none of these stockings would be here if you and I hadn't fallen in love. And look what's happened, So, yeah, she's first. She's the best. So.
That's good. I love it. Okay. So, Robin, I have a question for you. I know that for a lot of women, particularly women who tend to be more task-oriented, it can And because our God-given role as women is to be the keepers of our home and ones who, make the schedule go round and make sure that the cogs are turning properly. But it can be easy to go from there, that seeing the way that things need to function, to not always letting our husbands have a leadership role in our marriages, in our parenting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it can be easy when you're in the driver's seat in so many ways,
Right.
to not let him have the driver's seat in that way. So can you talk to us a little bit about intentionally letting your husband take the driver's seat in the way that he chooses to father your kids?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think it wasn't really hard for me in that regard because Mark has just always been so full of wisdom, and just the words that have come out of his mouth have always been from the heart of God, and they're so laced with the wisdom of the Word of God. I remember early on, we were on staff. He was on staff at a Methodist church, and I was at the altar and I was praying, and there was another lady, a widow actually, praying next to me, and he was praying for her. And just the words I heard him speaking over her, I'm like, we're in our 20s. I'm like, what? Just so wise, just so much wisdom, and always laced with the love of God. It's just, anyway, so that it's never been really, we've had disagreements where things that we thought, but like he said, if we disagreed something in parenting, we would talk about it away from the girls, not in front of the girls. There was always a united front when it came to parenting. I think as he's just always sought the heart of God, it's never made it a challenge for me. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I do like control. I like control. Don't get me wrong. So there's things that, but it's just never, it's always felt like we've been one when it came to parenting the girls. And I didn't feel like I had to, I never felt like I had to like step aside and let him do, we were just always one. And I'm grateful for that. Yeah, I think I probably should have said something else. I think you said something else. I was going to add something there, but anyway, maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah. Do you guys have any wisdom for any parents who feel like they may not have started on the same page with parenting? Like that they're trying to get on the same page as a married couple, but maybe didn't start that way?
Well, I would say there's a saying they have in the military. It's called P to the fifth. And it basically says prior planning prevents poor performance. And so I would say if you haven't started on the same page, it's never too late to get on the same page. But maybe to start now having those conversations, away from the kids. So how are we going to approach this? If you have kids, say, that are 9 or 10 and you see puberty around the corner, okay, there's going to be a whole different set of issues as parents we're going to have to face. So how are we going to face those? And coming into an agreement about how we're going to face those before the moment happens makes it a lot easier when it does happen. It's almost like if you agree on how you're going to, say, have a conflict with your spouse, if you talk about how are we going to, quote, fight and do it in a godly way without tearing each other down, it's easier to do that before the fight than it is in the middle of one. Right. And so we can always go back and say, we said we're not going to do this, and just take a breath. And we both agree this is how we're going to handle that situation. So, and the kids pick up so quickly if you're not on the same page. And that's when kids will begin to manipulate and play one against the other, that type of thing. So,
well, I will say, when the girls became teenagers, I really did appreciate Mark's perspective on fashion, because I was more, if it was fashionable and they liked it, I was like, okay. I mean, to an extent, I'm not going to let them have itty bitty teeny weeny bikinis or anything like that. But there were, back in, I don't remember, probably the 90s, when the little crop t-shirts are coming back in now, right? The little crop t-shirts. And one of our girls really, really liked those crop t-shirts. And she would wear friends' crop t-shirts. And so we'd gone shopping, and I think I may have called Mark and said, she really wants one of these crop t-shirts. And he said, well, don't buy it, but when you come home, we'll talk. And I'm like, okay. And I knew he meant talk. We'll all talk. Mm-hmm. And again, Mark wanted to get to the heart of the matter. And he wanted our daughter to understand, not, you can't wear that crop top because it's not decent. It wasn't that. It was, he wanted to hear her heart, but he also wanted to communicate a male's perspective and what you're communicating to a young man. And anyway, he just did things like that. We had another one of our daughters wanted to get her belly button pierced. I didn't necessarily think it was that big of a deal, but Mark communicated to us in a beautiful way what you might be. And if anybody out there has their belly button pierced, there's no judgment. This was just for our family. It's our family. And we have a couple of our daughters have tattoos, and we have our opinions about that, but they were adults when they got those tattoos. So,
we told them, when you're 18 and leave home, you can get all the tattoos you want, but not until then. So, yeah.
But things like that have come up. And so Mark has always communicated heart behind something and not just rules. And that matters. It really matters. And I know that there are times that there has to be that no. I think there was a party one time that Shannon wanted to go to, and we couldn't give her good reason. It just was a no. Sorry, baby. You're going to have to trust us on this. It's a no. And she didn't understand, but honestly, she found out later what all happened at the party. And she was like, thank you, Jesus. Glad I wasn't there. Even though it was, a Christian group of friends, they just made some poor choices that night.
Mm-hmm. We've had those conversations with our kids too, where we just had to be like, hey, you're just going to have to trust us on this. And it's so hard in that moment, but it does most of the time. They come back later and they're like, okay, You're right. I get it. I get why.
The only thing my dad did that I wish he hadn't have done is I'd always ask him why. And he just said, because I said so. Mm-hmm. It never satisfied me. I wanted to know why. And so I told myself I would never say that, and I never have. So I've always tried to tell the kids why. Mm-hmm. And if I tell them why and they go, well, that's stupid. I said, you don't have to agree with it. You asked why, and I told you. Mm-hmm. End of discussion, And so I just tried to be honest with them. And there were not very many, probably a handful of times I said, Aaron, just what you said, you're just going to have to trust me. There's something mm-hmm. in here, something in my heart that says this is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say. And when I did that, they'd go, okay, Dad, and never got pushed back on that. Mm-hmm. So I think the kids appreciated the honesty.
Yeah. And I love that because you'd established with them, that I'm going to be honest with you about my heart in this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share the vision for the heart behind this rule or this decision. I'm going to share what God's been doing in me that makes me think this is the right way to go. That they were able to trust your judgment in those situations where it was just an instinct or just a feeling that you couldn't necessarily put into words. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's such a big part of relationship building with our kids. Okay. So over here, I don't know if y'all are seeing in the comments, but we've had some people make some great comments about rituals that they have in their families. So we have Angela and Brandon, who are brand new parents. Their little buddy is just a tiny, tiny thing. And they already have a song that they sing to him every night when he goes to sleep. That's really precious. And Sarah Trapp says that since Judah, so he's only one, he's not too big either, started eating solid foods, that they eat dinner with him at the table, that they're already establishing a family dinner with rhythm there. And Will says that they sing Jesus Loves Me every night and every nap time with their kiddos. I love that. And we have some fun birthday blessings. So Angela and Brandon said at birthdays, we go around and say a favorite memory from the whole family for that that person. I love that. We did that for my dad the other day, and he was just like taken aback that we all took time to encourage him at the dinner table on his birthday. I love that. And Julia says their family takes turns speaking a blessing over the birthday person. I love that. And Will says they share happy or sad things or highs and lows at dinner every night. Their kids are little, so it's happy and sad things. But they're already building a tradition of sharing what's going on in their lives.
So good.
And the jury said they play board games with the big kids after the littles are in bed.
Oh, good.
Such fun relationship building. I love it, y'all. These are good. Okay, so I have one last giveaway and one more question. So
who was winner number
second one?
Who was winner number 2?
Oh, who was winner number 2, Julia? Winner number 2 was Angela and Brandon.
Yay! With their brand new baby.
Okay, so Reedies, you are the winners of Long Story Short. And I will make sure I get that one on Angela's desk at the office. Okay. And so I have one more giveaway. And while y'all are typing here your answers in the giveaway, I am also going to be taking questions from our audience for this last few minutes. Okay. So if you have an answer for the giveaway or you have a question for Mark and Robin, please type it in here. Okay. In the comments. And my last giveaway is The Tech Wise Family. It's a great book about family culture and is super, super good. And I am going to give this one, I have to think of it. Here you go. To the family that has the most children on this thread, okay? So having to navigate technology with the most kids. And I do think that prize, unless there's somebody hiding in the background that hasn't commented, goes to the Druries. All right, Drew and Tiffany, the Tech Wise family, it is yours. And we will make sure this gets to you. Okay, so y'all give us some questions. What questions do you have for Mark and Robin? I have another one I can ask if you have one. If you don't have one, but. Questions. Okay, I'm going to give y'all another minute to type in a question. And if no one has one, I'm going to ask my question. Okay, the Wilshusens have a question. What did it look like to do family devotional times for you guys? What were some things that you did over the years to spend time with Jesus together with your kids?
Well, I think I always tried to keep it. I never have really been, she's been the task-oriented structure, and I'm kind of the, hey, let's play and have fun type. So when the kids were little, I always tried to make those times, family devotions, fun, and I would do a crab. I know it's kind of walking on your feet in my hands, behind me, and we would talk about walking. I was a giant crab on Noah's Ark, and I would sit them on my stomach, and we'd walk around the room, and I'd say, "What other animals do you see on Noah's Ark?" And they were, oh, "There's a giraffe. There's a," we're laughing and everything. But then we would turn that around to, let's talk about that story. What do you know about the story? And back and forth, and just, and just asking questions. I think a lot of our family devotions were asking questions and just getting them to give their thoughts on it could be a particular scripture. It could be a lot of times it was Bible stories. Like we tell a really cool Bible story. What do you think about that story? What do you think was going on with so-and-so when he talked to Jesus? What do you think Bartimaeus was feeling when Jesus said, see, and all of a sudden he could see for the first time? What was that like, And so I tried to make it as practical as possible with that, so that, and even, when they got to be older as teenagers, we had more of those life talks.
Mm-hmm.
It was more, hey, you following Jesus today? What does that look like at school? What does that look like when your friends want to go to a party that may not be such a great party? And how do you say no, I'm not going, without coming across judgmental, or I'm better than you, or anything like that? And so I'm just a pragmatist. So most of our family devotions was about, what does this look like when we walk this out? How do we live? And it was the same way when I was a church planner and I was preaching. I kind of had a personal rule that if they can't do it on Monday, I don't want to preach it on Sunday. So I was always trying to give them something that they could actually immediately apply and start doing. So
that's really good. And I think you kind of transitioned here into some of these other questions we have, which all seem to be related. So this will be our last question here for y'all. How did you help your kids foster their personal relationship with Jesus, hearing God's voice, so that they could have their own wings with Jesus?
Well, certainly just being in community with believers, and I love to worship, and so I think worshiping extravagantly around and letting our daughters see us love and worship Jesus, and then for them, I think it's really important that when they share things, like you were talking about, you had that moment with your daughter and you realized that it was God kind of answering your prayer, speaking that out, say, I was praying for such, and so now they know that God is answering your prayers. And then also whenever they share a story and you're like, that sounds like Jesus. It sounds like God was intervening in that, or it sounds like God was speaking to you. What did that sound? What did that feel like? So that you're helping them. Think about if you were teaching a kid a sport. I'm not a sports person, but I'm thinking if you're trying to teach a kid a sport and you're teaching them how to, maybe dribble a basketball and then make that layup. How did that feel? To me, that's the same thing with our spiritual being. It's like, okay, well, that seems like it was the Holy Spirit. What did that feel like to you? And leading them back to the Word, if they're telling you, things that are in the Word. Oh, let's look at this scripture, and this is exactly what Jesus says about that. And so you're affirming them, and you're confirming that they are hearing Jesus, and that I'll tell a real quick story because I know we're running out of time. When Shannon was in middle school, this is when the kids, their words are coming. It's like, oh yeah, I guess you are hearing Jesus. She loaned a friend her coat. Again, finances always super tight for us. And I'm like, Shannon, you can't just give away your coat. She goes, well, my friend was cold. Jesus would have given her his coat. You are right. You are correct. You did the right thing.
So we'll go to Goodwill and buy you another one.
We'll go to another coat.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really precious. Oh my goodness, y'all. Y'all are a wellspring of experience and wisdom. Thank y'all so much for sharing.
Thank you for having us.
Being with y'all and listening to y'all. And we're so thankful. And you guys, we will make this YouTube link visible, and we'll share it in our next Antioch Kids newsletter for sure, and probably somewhere before then. But if you missed something and you want to go back and watch it again, it will be available for you to go back and watch it again. And that's it. We love y'all. Have a great night. Like your Christmas decorations.
Oh, thank you. A little early, but it's all right.
With your kids. Everybody sleep tight. Good night.
All right.
Signing off.
Thanks, guys.